Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second monthly webinar for LADOTD. My name is Philip Graves. I'll be your host on today, as well as I do have a few key players that will kind of chime in as we go along with our monthly webinar. As Nate stated before, happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Hopefully everybody gets them a nice chocolate treat, as well as they give something nice on Valentine's Day to those that they love. So I wanted to just go ahead and throw that out there. But without further ado, I want to introduce some people that I love dearly on my side, as well as in the LADOTD. I have with me Nate Johns, who is our customer success manager. I also have Casey Leo, who is a customer success manager as well, who's on the call. I also have our learning program manager, Mark Stackhouse, who's on this call as well. And then I also have the great folks of LADOTD E-Construction who are on the call. I have Les Fletcher, he's on, as well as I have Kevin Barbier. I also have Patrick Eisenagel, who is leader of that team. He's on this call as well as a few others. Marty, great to have you. And if there's anybody I'm missing, Donna, Cassandra, thank you guys for joining as well. So just to kind of get you guys comfortable with our normal, agenda when it comes down to the monthly meeting. First, we like to start off with a round table, okay? And that round table is basically just to anything that's been pressing on your mind in regards to HeadLight software or e-construction. Feel free to go ahead and let us know. You can come off of mute and tell us any of those things, whether it may be, hey, Phil, I'm having an issue with this, or this would be great to have, as well as you can also drop those in the chat. So we want to go ahead and reserve a few minutes for you guys to kind of mention to us anything that you're experiencing in the field that you feel like could be better, or that you're having trouble with, or a feature request that might be great to you guys as you go through your day-to-day using the software. So without any wasting of any time, you guys can go ahead and drop those to us. I say those out loud, whatever you feel is best. Anybody got anything? Let's see.
I just want to mention, we still have lots of people trying to get on. A lot of them are having trouble because it's asking for a meeting passcode. So I'm dropping that to each one of them as they ask for it.
Okay. Gotcha. I'll mention one thing that we had that was discussed was like boat testing and stuff like that. Fred had mentioned this one to me on last week, that it would be good to have some kind of form or something like that out there where they can put down those TARC results. Fred, did you want to kind of go into more detail what we had discussed in regards to that?
Yeah, so we some of our projects where we're doing our bridge, steel bridge construction, there's a requirement to have testing results for bolts that are installed, for some of the members. And I was just curious if there was a way to put some type of template form in there that the state would like to see for results on a thing. I created my own spreadsheet, and I shared it with Philip. A spreadsheet with matching sketches of the connections that were being used in the field, so that when the inspector goes up to it, he can actually look at the sketch, and then he can, they're all marked in basically a grid with a number attached to the grid, like a A1, B1, C1, where they can label the ones that they're testing to see if they pass fail on the connections. So I was wondering if there was just something like that they could put in there to make it easier. Instead of writing that down in a narrative, there's actually just like a little spreadsheet they could fill out on the tablet while they're there testing it. Because to put that in a narrative is, nobody's gonna want to read the narrative, but it's easier to see a sketch with the results in it, with a spreadsheet attached to it.
What do you think about that, Les?
So is there not a DOTD paper form for that already?
I don't know where one resides.
Okay. That may be something we get to as we start to build this new LIMS module that we're about to work on. Because it sounds like that's testing, and is it mostly, it's mostly done out in the field, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of times they use DTIs, was what they're currently using, and you test a percentage of those DTIs for conformance, and then it's just a good note to have, like which ones you tested. But usually they'll write that in the narrative of the DWR, and then so you have to read through it and figure out which ones they were. But if you had a sketch attached, some kind of way we could link a sketch. Especially if you're doing bridge construction where a lot of these members are repetitive, you can just put the sketch in there, and then it's already, and then they just mark off the ones that they checked.
Yeah, we're starting to find lots of uses for forms. Even our fabrication group, we're starting to bring them on, and it's looking like they're going to need some built. The problem is there's so many, the amount of time it's going to take to build them all is what we're up against. But for now, Philip, if you'll send me over the spreadsheet he has, maybe we can come up with a little process for what you guys are doing, and maybe find a way to use it as is until we could get a form built.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be more project specific, since every project, bolt-up connections are different for every project. So it's going to be more project specific, but the idea is to have something that's kind of in a template that they can work off of.
Right. Something standardized.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yep.
The thought process behind it, Les, was that we put a photo in there and then allow for the ability to build out tables to put those in, as far as, hey, this image has, 4 rows or something like that, where we can put column A in the photo, and then we can put those TARC results in those for the bolts.
Just thinking through it right now, even if we had a paper form that you could fill out and then just upload an image of that form or a scan of it, you can scan with the iPad, would probably suffice for now. Anyway, yeah.
Well, and that's what we're going to do now, because I created a spreadsheet with a matching photo to that spreadsheet, and that's what we're doing now. Is they're going to fill out the appropriate one and take a picture of it.
Yeah, you can also upload that as a file to the project as well. So
right.
As you fill out that spreadsheet, you can do it that way. Photo is probably better because it just shows up a little easier, that visual on there. But yeah, Philip, if you could shoot that over to me, I'd like to take a look at it and see if I could help out there.
Okay, will do. Anybody else have anything that they've run across that might be beneficial or helpful? I know Jimmy, you've been doing some things, and there are some things that we were trying to tweak for you as well. Did you want to mention some of those to see if some other people might have had some of those experiences?
Yeah, it's on the, I remember if it's the rate or the frequency, one or the other, where it shows all 9s. They're just certain items, 3 or 4 different items. You could change it to 1 or whatever you want it set to, and the next day, or maybe before the end of the day, it would be back to all 9s. It was just doing it on its own.
Yeah.
But it was the same 4 or 5 items.
Yes.
The other ones I never had no problem with. But I hadn't checked it in the last few days to see if it's changed back.
Yeah, we were able to do some testing on our end, and I believe it should be corrected, Jimmy. But give it a try out, a test for us, and let us know if it's coming back and it's still giving that same error. Okay.
Okay, I'll check.
Can I speak to this? I think I might have saved you some time, Jimmy. This came up on our BBF meeting last week with HeadLight, and they asked me to go check on it. So yesterday before I left, I actually changed everything to 1. And it looks, everything that you had sent me that you were having issues with, and it looks like it held. So it looks like they're all staying at the correct rate now. So
okay, I'll pull it back up too and check.
But you take a look at it and verify as well. Make sure.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Pretty much, I think we got, any other things that have come out in the field that might be something that you want to, kind of address on the round table and let us know. So that way we can kind of put eyes on it and make sure that we are helping you guys out as you experience anything. Everybody good? All right, well, thank you for just discussing those two things. Now we want to move into actually our demo kind of session of where we go through a specific topic every week. And this week's topic is adding annotation to photos. Okay, so we'll actually show you guys two different ways on today. The first way we will show you is using the HeadLight software to add annotation, as well as we'll show you how to use the iOS native app to be able to use annotation, okay? So I'll be actually demoing the first part on how to use it inside of HeadLight. And then we'll also have Les, he will demonstrate to you guys how to use the iOS native app to be able to annotate and then include that into your DWR, your daily work report, okay? So,
hey, Philip,
yeah.
Can I bring something up before we move into this section?
Okay.
Kind of the elephant in the room, and we need to address it. So I don't know that most of you heard this, but Site Manager has basically been on fire for the past couple of weeks. We lost a couple of nodes on the server, and OTS had to move it to cloud, Oracle Cloud last week. And actually, Patrick dropped off because apparently it's on fire again. So the reason I'm telling you this is we want you to be aware of that. And to please, if you're seeing any anomalies with the transfer, HeadLight actually did their part and pointed HeadLight to the new location. And so everything should be working. Your reports and all should be syncing over. But please keep an eye out for that. And if you have any trouble with it, send in a service request to support@headlight.com and CC the e-construction team on it so that we can get that logged in so OTS can keep up on it. So thanks for that. Sorry.
I'm still here, Les.
Okay.
Actually, this morning, we're seeing connectivity issues between some people are saying it's in the Site Manager client itself. Some people are saying it's with some of the supported applications. Like LaPave and the traffic control diaries. So we're still seeing this intermittent up and down, trying to target the new instance, but the old server is officially gone. It's out of the picture. Everything's gone. But they did manage to recover all the data. Everything's been migrated to the cloud. Everything's been retargeted to the cloud. Now we're just trying to get everything stable with targeting the cloud and supporting the user base that we have. So bear with us. OTS is on it and DOT is on it. So we're getting on it.
All righty. Thank you guys for that update. Well, I guess let's go ahead and jump into adding annotation. Like I said before, we're going to do it on the HeadLight side first, and then Les is going to actually take over and show you guys how you would be able to do it using the iOS native app, okay? So let me go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. You should see me inside of the LADOTD Training 2.0 project. This is a sandbox environment, if you guys don't know, that you can go on here and you can actually create observations, try out observations, and just try different things to make sure that you are utilizing the product correctly. And this is also an environment where you can't harm or hurt anything, okay? So feel free to try out anything that you want to inside of this project. Everybody should have access to it. So just like any other observation that we first create, right now I'm in the journal section of things, and you can click right here on the green plus. When you click on that green plus, it will open up the journal observations for you to be able to select the type of observation that you want. So I'm going to go ahead and click on image. First thing that comes up is my camera. I'm then able to take a photo. You will notice that 3 buttons actually appear, okay? The first button that you see on the screen is going to be this green check. If you were not adding annotation, you would be able to click on that green plus, that green check. It would save the photo for you. The next button that you see is the one that we're going to use today as far as annotation is concerned. We have the pencil. If you click on that pencil, you're then able to open up a new list of options for you to annotate on this photo. You'll notice that off to your left in the top and bottom corner, there's a dot as well as a little A alphabet. That dot at the top allows you to be able to change the size of the pencil that you're using, okay? To mark the screen. Pretty much I kind of stay in the middle, right, with the medium-sized one as opposed to the small one to make sure that people are able to see the annotation that I put on photos. Down here at the bottom left is the letter A. This will allow you guys to be able to type in. Now, I will go ahead and let you guys know that typing in on the photos is not searchable. However, it could come in handy for certain things. For example, if you guys are doing any kind of measurements or anything like that, you can use the length times width times times height and be able to type it in this field. You can also do certain things as far as just pointing out and say the issue or something like that, very generic. However, when you get into wanting to be very defined as far as what you're stating, make sure you reserve that for the description field inside of the observation. And the reason why you want to use the description field is because that information becomes searchable. So we have instances where if you were saying, hey, this bolt is damaged, you might be able to talk to somebody or somebody might search for damaged bolts. That would be searchable if it's in a description field. If you put it in annotation, it's not searchable. However, you could put the size of that bolt inside of this to make sure that people who are looking at the photo can actually tell the size of the bolt. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys and you guys understand why we don't want to put too much as far as typing in information on the annotation as opposed to using the description field. So for this right here, I'm going to just show you an instance of where I would use that. So for example, I have this screen up here in this plant. I can do a little line straight up here. Then this box where the annotation is, I can say, plant length or something like that. And then I can come in here, double tap inside of that box. It opens up the opportunity for me to type in when I would like to type. Now, there's two ways that you can do this. I can do this one way by typing it in, or I can use dictation and say, plant size. I can then hit the green check, and then now that information is saved, okay? I can also draw an arrow pointing here. And then that would just let you guys know how long this plant is, which this plant is 1.5 feet. I can create another box to say 1.5 feet. Hit the green check, and then I can put that right over there. Okay. Another thing that I can also do is I can change the color of the pencil, okay? In that top right corner, I can adjust that to whatever color that I might want to put up here. So for example, if I wanted to change the color and put blue here, I will be able to also do that. I can also use those boxes to be able to add, the size of the TV screen that's right here. I can also do a few other things. If I'm not happy with some of that annotation, I would be able to hit the counterclockwise arrow, and it would take off the last piece of annotation that I added. Also, I can use the trash can that would delete all of the annotation that I just added. And then I can easily remove that just like that. But this helps in areas where you guys are a little bit further away from being able to take a picture that will be right there in front. This also helps when you have small items that show up on a photo and people might say, what are you actually wanting me to see inside of this photo? You can use annotation to kind of clearly define those things or point out what you want them to look in on. Okay, this is also very helpful, or the most common way is to use it for measurements to be able to show exactly what's going on, whether it might be a storm drain pipe, whether it might be a hole that you can see the hole, but you can't see how deep the hole is. You can actually add annotation to kind of give more clarity around exactly what you took the image of. Okay. When it comes to it, after this, after you create your annotation, you can come in here, you can hit the green check. Right now, I removed all the annotation, but I could add it back if I so choose to. Change the color again, and you'll notice that it opens back up. Like I said before, draw my line, I can add my box right there. Then after that, come in here, feet. And I just want to go ahead and show you guys once again that I'm adding all my annotation back. Plant size. Here. Hit the green check. Now you notice that there's a list of options at the bottom. You have save. If I'm good with the photo that I've taken with the annotation, I can hit save. I can also retake the photo. The annotation will probably stay there. Then there's also the gallery option, and I'm sure Les is going to go into more details when we get to that point where the gallery option is. You can also toggle the annotation. Okay, if you wanted to see the photo without it, you can go ahead and hit toggle, and then you can also edit the annotation, okay? So hopefully this helps you guys out, but I'm just gonna go ahead and hit save. You'll notice that it shows up here. One thing that I will say in regards to the annotation, you guys can put annotation on there from an administrative or manager's perspective or PE perspective. Whenever you have where an inspector actually puts annotation on there, don't feel like that annotation has to stay. You can also share this photo. You have the ability from the web to download this photo without the annotation, okay? So if there's ever annotation, you can say, hey, I like the photo, or this photo could be useful, or this photo is something that I can bring up in a meeting, but I don't want the annotation to show. You can actually remove this on the web, so whereas you can get a clean photo without the annotation. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. So after that's all said and done, we still want to remember our best practices when it comes down to creating observations inside of HeadLight, okay? Which means I want to make sure that I do have a title. I can come in here and put plant size. For some reason it thinks I'm saying play today. So after I have that plant size, the reason why I want to go over that is because this is something that we want to reiterate to you guys. Make sure that you are using 2 to 3 words when it comes down to the title. Also, to the right of this photo is the dynamic tags. We want to make sure that we include as much as possible always, okay? So if there is a piece of equipment that you know in here, then you would use that. Line item, you want to make sure that you have. If there's a tag that's relevant, make sure that you include it as well. What'd you say, Brandon? Okay. It was a mistake.
It wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So you want to make sure that you have all of those things included. As I stated to you guys before, the description field, I can add something in here. I can use dictation to say, plant is located right next to monitor, period. Could be a hindrance or disturbance to the monitor. So for example, like this photo here, you can see that I went into more detail about my annotated photo with the description field. Okay, so if there was me talking to Les and say, hey, Les, could you check out the image that I have of the monitor? He can search monitor and that would come up. If I used it in the annotation, he wouldn't be able to see it. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys why we would prefer you guys to put descriptions in there as opposed to writing them inside of the photo. But hopefully this was very helpful to you guys on how you can use the HeadLight software to create annotation on your photo. Les, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Phil. That was great. You explained things so well. So I need to share from my iPad here.
Okay.
Can you give me permission for that?
Yeah, you good.
All right. All right, so now you guys can see my screen. So where I'm going to start, and I want to reiterate what Phil was talking about, it's very important that you're capturing the image inside of HeadLight and that all of the narrative that you're adding to the picture, remember that that's not searchable and that needs to be in the description. So what I'm going to show you here is the native iPad app. The HeadLight app is great, and it is good for like a quick annotation. It's right there at your fingertips. Sometimes if you need something that's a little more detailed, or you need straighter lines that you can't really do with your finger well, the iPad has some more advanced tools for doing that. So what I'm going to start with here is, when you take a picture in the HeadLight app, it automatically saves that to the photo gallery, right? So if you are holding the iPad, you take your picture in the field, you hit that green check mark, and it saves that observation. At that point, you can open up your Photos app, and that image would be there. Now, what I've got here is a few examples I want to go through. But before that, I want to talk about, why do we even do annotations? Like what is the point? So the main point is you're trying to bring attention to a particular part of that image observation, right? When you're PE or you're Tech 7, or if you are a PE or a Tech 7 and you're reviewing reports, it catches your eye. And so that inspector who is doing the annotation, the main point of that is to highlight something that PE needs to see, right? And then Phil mentioned a few of these track and pay measurements. That was probably my favorite thing to do with it when I was in the field. It was just the documentation I needed to back up what I was paying on the estimate to the contractor. If anybody ever had a question of what was going on, or if we were paying too much or not enough, I could go back to my measurement there and show them what happened there. We can also use annotations to call out test results, and I'll show you a couple examples of that. And then even highlight some technical data. I actually have an example of some pile data here that I want to show you. So let's just go into it. So this example here is very basic, right? Asphalt, it seems like there's not a lot that you could take pictures of and annotate an asphalt. Measurements are one thing though. As they're laying down the mat, this is just a simple arrow and showing that, what that measurement was. Sometimes it's really hard to see the tape measure. We prefer that you get in there close to the tape measure, but annotation actually helps with that. The next thing here, this would be how to call out test results. So this was a job I was on, and this stroke was actually rejected. I definitely recommend giving an annotation if you got a slump that's too much or something like that, and it's something that you're going to reject. I even like to use red when I do that, even though sometimes red doesn't show up the best. Here's an example of using a couple of different apps, right? This is combining a couple of pictures together with Pick Collage. So this is some of the pile data that's actually in the poured into the concrete there, and then a screenshot of the plans with a little highlight of where that pile is located. Now I'm sure in the description we put what vent it was actually on, but we didn't annotate that on the picture here. Here's an example of milling, and I actually had this picture without an annotation. So it's a good picture. It's well lit at night. It's hard to get pictures at night, but it doesn't give you a whole lot of information. So you can see that they milled up to the intersection, but that's about it, right? So when you go in there and you actually have an annotation showing your measurements, it just brings a lot more value to that picture. And again, it's back up for what you're paying that contractor. And these are pretty simple. It may look a little difficult to do, but it's really not. And we'll get into that in just a minute. Here's another example of, putting some of that technical data. You screenshot the plans and you can show elevations where you shot it or if something was wrong there. This is another great example of putting, your pile capacities and your cutoffs on the, pile. This is a great annotation, something I wish we had this information for every vent that we've ever driven, right? Because that's really a quick look and to find that information. I've seen people, elevations on structures. This is a great example where they hand drew. This one was probably done in the HeadLight app, and it's a good use of it. Of the plans show one thing, but the contractor's proposing that you have to modify it. So this is a good way to do that and show that PE so that they can make a decision on if that is a good thing to modify or not. Okay, so now let's get into the annotation part. and I'm gonna start with a simple one. So this is a pipe. Is that Mr. Vosberg? I see Mr. Vosberg peeking back there at us. Hey, Chad. So this is a simple pipe, right? You've got 3 joints here. So we know it's about, they're 8-foot joints. So it's about 24 feet. So we're going to do that. If you notice up at the top right, it says edit. So when you select that, it gives you some options here. And sometimes these are really great options to start with before you actually start editing and annotating the picture. So there is, you can crop the picture, right? So sometimes you might want to crop out something like this contractor standing in the back. I put an emoji over his face, so we don't know who that is, but you could crop that out there. When you go back, I'm sorry, edit, see this little where it says auto and it has like a little wand there? If you tap that and raise this slider up and down, it can brighten or darken the picture. And sometimes that's great because you might get a sun flare. Actually, I think one of the pictures I have on here to annotate does have a sun flare in it. And you can edit that out. So if you can go a little darker with it, it helps the annotation show up a little bit better. All right, so we're gonna do that. And I'm gonna click done here. And that would be editing the picture. Okay, it's not working. All right, there we go. So edit again. And now if you notice, next to the little eye, there's a marker there. So this is how you get to the annotation tools using the iOS native app. So when you tap the little markup, you'll see there are a few tools down at the bottom that you get. And I'll kind of briefly go through them. So this one is a pen. If you tap it, it gives you more options on changing the size, similar to the HeadLight one. Sometimes if you do a mark with the little one, it's really hard to see that, especially when it's red. So let me take those off. As you make that bigger, obviously that's better. And you'll notice that this slider makes it more like a highlighter or darkens the line, right? So something to be aware of. The next tool you have is a highlighter, basically the same thing, except for it's gonna not be as bright. This is a pencil. I don't find this to be very useful when you're annotating pictures for construction things. Next, we have the eraser. Obviously, you can just go in and erase some of your annotations. So if you go in here and make a line that you don't want, or you don't want part of it, the eraser obviously just erases the parts you don't want. I do want to point out something with the pen. This is something Apple added not too long ago that I found. So if you're drawing with your finger and you were to circle this pipe, right? It's okay, it looks good like that, but it's not a perfect circle or a perfect oval. And so sometimes you want that to be a little straighter. If you circle it, but then don't pick your finger up at the end, leave your finger touching it, it automatically changes that to a more straight circle or straight oval, I guess you would say. And it does the same thing with straight lines. So if you draw a squiggly line and then hold your finger there, it automatically makes it straight. This is a really great tool. This came along after I was in the field, and it's actually probably much better than what I was doing back then. So let me take these off here.
And just a note, Les, it'll also do that, I think, with squares and triangles, any kind of basic shape.
Actually, a star.
Yeah, even a star. Look at that. That's so cool.
It does several different things. So, yep. Thanks for that, Mark. Appreciate that. Actually, let me go back and put the star in here. The next tool was always confusing to me. This is actually, Apple calls it the lasso. And what it is you can circle your observation and it puts puts the little lines around it. And then you can move your annotation where you want it. That's all the lasso does. So you probably won't use that very often, but it's good to know what it is and why it's there. The next one is actually something that came along after I was in the field also, which really is great, and that is the ruler. And so obviously you can kind of set your angle here to match. And as you run your finger along that ruler, it makes the straight line for you. So this is great if you're trying to draw something out for measurements there. Let me hide the ruler. Obviously you have your colors, and then if you tap this multicolor, it gives you a color wheel of everything, full spectrum and even sliders. It's always best to pick a color that is contrasting to what's in the image, right? So if you have a really bright image, like we darkened this one, but if you have a really bright image, you're probably going to go with a darker color and vice versa. Next, we have the plus sign to the right. When you tap that, there are actually several more tools in here that allow for all kind of creative annotations. So you can tap the square, and you can make this bigger to call out something. If you touch this little box with a circle and the square in it, it gives you different versions of that. So you can make it thicker and you can actually fill it in. This one is very important. I find I use this a lot in the field. So the important thing in this picture is the pipe, right? So I would drop a box that's colored in over here to the bottom left, and then you'll see here you have a text box just like the HeadLight app, and then you can drop your text on top of that box, and it gives you something to contrast the color with, so it's very easy to see it. So we'll take these off for now though. Sorry, let me go through all the versions. Okay, so next, obviously there's circle, and probably the most common one that I used in the field is the arrow. Again, you have like 9 different options here. You can make it a double arrow that's thicker down to a skinny line or a thicker line. If you grab the blue dots, that's how you move it. And so for this pipe, I would probably do an annotation something similar to this. I would drag that along there, add say a square, fill that in, drop some text on top of that. That was 24 feet. Drag that text on top of the box. And then you see the little a and the big A there. It gives you a slider. You can make that text bigger. You could even change this. Usually this one is great. Something along those lines, and you have a fairly simple but a really good annotation there. All right. Let's move on to one that's a little more advanced. Obviously, something like this, you could draw a few lines. I'll just do real quick. You could grab your pen, maybe do green, hold it down, drop your lines on here real quick. That one doesn't look very good. And then, drop a couple of measurements on there and you're good to go. If you're paying for this by the square yard anyway. Last thing I want to show you here is, what do you do when you come upon a curved, you have some curved forms. Here, I'll probably need to maybe brighten this up a little bit with that sun flare in it. It might even be a good idea to edit some of that out. So you could grab it and crop some of that down before re-uploading it to HeadLight. You're going to grab your edit and your marker here. And just say you want to add a arrow here, and we're going to make it a double arrow, something along those lines. So you have a point to pay here and a point to pay here in the middle, right, for one of your measurements. The green dot in the middle of that line is actually how you curve it. So you can do all kinds of things. You can move it up. I use this if I'm trying to point out something and I need to get around an object in the picture that is important. I usually will curve that arrow around that object so that, the PE could see what that is. So you drop one like that, maybe one more, and it does remember what you did the last time. Whoops. Drop one more here, and you've got basically your 2 measurements needed to get your square yards there. Obviously, you can drop the text on there. I always like to put the measurements and the calculations in the description box as well, instead of just on the image. And when I was in the field, one of the most important things I did, and I still am thankful I did it, is tagging it properly. So every annotation measurement I did when I was in the field, I tagged it measurements, and I can still go back to that project almost 5 years ago, and I can search the tag measurements and pull up every measurement that I paid for on that project, at least the part where I was using HeadLight. And so that's still really great to this day when I'm trying to show somebody something. In fact, it was pretty easy for me to go in and find these images to show you guys. So one other thing I've seen done lately, and this was something I never did in the field, but say you're milling a project, right? There's not a whole lot of great images that you can upload for milling, right? You're just milling this lane, usually it's station to station this wide. There's a user in Baton Rouge here that started doing this, and I really liked it. So I want to show you guys real quick. You can go to your maps and just say, let's just pick up a piece of roadway here. I know this is concrete section here, but anyway, we'll just say that we're milling this. It's real easy to grab a screenshot, which gives you a bird eye view, right? Go in and edit this real quick, even with just a highlighter. And you could say, you know, contractor approximately milled this section. So that's a really great way, because sometimes you just can't get the iPad at the right angle. You know, if they mill a quarter mile, you're not going to get all that in a shot. So sometimes if you just grab a screenshot from Google, you can find a way to add that in and maybe put some station numbers in there. I would just make sure you're putting that these are approximate. You know, you're not measuring this thing for pay. It's just showing an approximate area that they milled that night, just so that you can track progress, right? If you go back and you tag these properly, then you could go back for the past 3 months and say, okay, you know, the contractor was a little behind on their milling operations. How much production were they getting every night? And this would be a great way to show their production. So I think that's all I have for how to annotate images using the native iPad app. And I think I'll just turn it back over to Philip.
Thank you, Lester. That was very, very helpful. Hopefully some people are able to walk away and try out a few of these tips. Just speaking of that, I do want to send a shout out to Matt Burgess. While we were going through this, he was actually creating inside of the training app some of the annotations. So I do appreciate you and applaud you for doing that on today. But, you know, hopefully you guys are able to use some of these tips. If you have any questions, feel free. You can reach out to the eConstruction team. That email is econstruction@la.gov, as well as you do have HeadLight to be able to support you in your efforts as far as using annotation as well. You can reach out to us at support@headlight.com, or you can reach out to me directly, philip.graves@headlight. Most of you guys should have my email or a way to contact me, but feel free to do so. Like we always tell you guys that, you know, your feedback and opinions and your thoughts are always invited, but heavily encouraged, okay? So feel free to reach out to us and let us know those things, all right? So at this time, I'll probably open it up for anybody on the eConstruction team. If there's any information that you guys want to share, I know we have the newsletter that went out on today. There were some helpful things, especially from my LADOTD folks, where you guys, the Success Factor app, making sure that you guys download that. That's also a helpful tool for training, as well as we do have some other things out there on the newsletter for everyone in regards to optional QA sessions for you guys to be able to attend, and that will be on next Tuesday. All right, so remember that, put it down on your calendars. Next Tuesday, we will have an optional QA session, and you guys can actually sign up for it on the newsletter. And if you need any information, further information, feel free to reach out to us as well. So before I actually, you know, I'll pass it over to Les or anybody from the eConstruction team. If there's something that they want to throw out there to you guys, feel free to do so.
I do want to say one thing. I want to thank everybody for being patient with us as we figure this webinar format out. I think we're going to start sending out the link or the invite to the webinar at least the week before, so you have a little more time to plan your schedule out and, you know, attend. I was last minute. I dropped the ball and did not send the link out to the last minute, so I apologize for that. But, you know, we'll get it next time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. And like I said, the next newsletter, we will have that link directly in the newsletter to where you can go in there and be able to click on it right next to the sign up. Okay, so that's already in the workings, but I do appreciate everybody's attendance. I do want to go ahead and reserve a little time if nobody else from eConstruction has anything to say. From my side, you know, Mark, do you have anything for them?
I got a question.
Okay, what you got, Jimmy?
You said the Q&A was next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, yes.
Okay, you know that's a holiday.
No, that's the 21st. Oh, yes, that's the big holiday, huh? Good catch, Jimmy. Well, you got to excuse me, Jimmy. I got 2 kids, so Mardi Gras doesn't have the same effect that it used to have on me, you know? So I will go ahead and change that. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm pretty sure everybody will be near afloat, and I don't want to guess what you're probably going to have in your hand or already have drunken. So I'm going to make sure to adjust that. We could possibly push that off to next Thursday. So I'll make sure to make those changes on my end, Jimmy. Thank you.
Hey, Phil.
Yeah. Hey, what you got, Patrick?
Hey, I just want to let everyone know that this annotation stuff, we actually had a job shadowing last week, and we put this in the hands of middle schoolers.
Yes.
And they jumped right on it, picked it up. So, I mean, this stuff's straightforward, easy to learn, and especially the P's bringing in, the newer kids, the newer ones, right out of high school, right out of college.
Yeah.
This is the type of stuff that they do every day on their tablets. So, ask them to do this type of stuff on your projects. They already know how to do it.
I don't know if y'all were hearing what Patrick was putting down, but I think he's challenging everybody on this call, as well as their groups, to make sure that they start using annotation. Like I said, hopefully you guys were able to see the benefit of annotation on today, right? It has huge benefits to taking your images to the next level, and taking you to the next level as far as the data that you are reporting on your projects. So hopefully you guys start using it. And like I said, if you need anything, let us know. That way we can support you to getting you to that point where you're able to add that annotation. I know it was a lot to take in today, but like I told you guys before, you have that sample project out there, LADOTD Training 2.0, where you can go in there and kind of experiment and play around with, just as Matt Burgess did on today, and kind of get a feel for how to use the annotation, as well as you can use the iOS native app and be able to drop those photos in if you find those tools to be a little bit more helpful as you advance inside of annotation. Hey, Mark, do you have some words of wisdom for him?
Well, I was going to say that was an awesome demonstration from Les and yourself. You pick up new stuff all the time and new ways to use the tools that we already have. I think that's awesome. I just want to share that, every time we come together like this, we're taking notes about the kind of questions you guys ask. So, maybe next month, think about any questions over the course of the next few weeks. And then what we do is we look at that. We'll be using that material to decide, okay, what else do we want to teach about? What could we send out maybe an FAQ document about? It's all so valuable, and we hope we find that you guys find it valuable as well. So be on the lookout for some future little micro trainings that we'll do on any of these topics that you guys find really interesting. And hopefully we'll be able to come up with some new topics like today that I think was pretty exciting, actually, to see some of that stuff and think about the possibilities. It was great.
Thank you, guys. Anybody else from my side or the HeadLight side that has a few words of wisdom that they want to leave with LADOTD before we close out the month of February's webinar? All right, seems like we're good. I want to go ahead and thank everybody for taking out the time to join on this webinar. Like I said, these have been a huge success, being this is the second one that we've done in 2023. Hopefully we continue on this trend of passing on great knowledge to you guys and seeing those improvements, as well as being able to get more attendance. So if you have any inspectors that are free, or anybody that's able to join, make sure that they're able to join, because we're dropping nuggets inside of the monthly webinar. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.